listening to the Patriot Nation podcast.
All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation podcast, a proud member of the CLNS group of podcasts. Make sure you download and subscribe to all of those shows across our network, both on YouTube and anywhere you get podcasts, for great content every day from us, certainly every weekday. But tonight, it's us over here at the Patriot Nation podcast, your boy Pat Lane, here with my guy Matt St. Jean. And Matt, the Red Sox are an embarrassment, an absolute embarrassment. There's no other way to describe it. They're an embarrassment.
I wouldn't describe them that way. That's definitely far from the first word that came to mind for me. I just don't like that they got Dustin May, because I don't like him. I just don't know, no trader, no starters got moved at this deadline. That's clearly what they wanted, and they were offering a lot, and no one was willing to do business. I just don't know what you're supposed to do with that.
So I will concede that point to you. If you are saying no one of note got traded, and so therefore the Twins, who traded their entire roster for whatever reason, decided Joe Ryan was a bridge too far and they were not going to trade him, fine. That's fine. They traded their number 5 and number 30 overall prospect. They traded the headliner of the trade in the Rafael Devers trade for an absolute bum from the Dodgers.
They traded Kyle Harrison?
No, they traded Fitz, the number 5 overall prospect in their organization.
Oh, I thought Kyle Harrison was the big piece in the Devers trade. That's what I thought, at least. But yeah, I don't think the trades they made were good. I like the trade for the Cardinals reliever. Thought that made a lot of sense. The trade for the other guy there, that felt like them realizing they had to do something, so they were going to do something, even though the something was way too much for a guy who's not that good.
I just thought it's a rental.
For a guy who's
you're trading your number 5 and number 30 prospect in your farm system for a rental who isn't good. I don't get it.
I don't think that was a good trade. I will say on that Joe Ryan thing, it's been mentioned a lot that this is what happened with Garrett Crochet last year, that they went in, tried to get him at the deadline, offered a ton for him, didn't happen, and then went back in the offseason and they got him for less. So if that happens, that happens.
Yep.
I'm certainly not pleased with the deadline.
Although, was Joe Ryan on a 1-year deal? I feel like Joe Ryan's contract is expiring too.
He's in the exact same position that Crochet was too. The timeline is he's just 1 year behind Crochet.
Okay.
So they're in a really good, they can copy and paste that if they'd like, basically. Yeah. I wish they did more. I will say I do think the team is good in a playoff team as currently constructed. So
yeah.
And I think what made it difficult is that the obvious piece to move is Durant. The problem was that now that Marcelo Mayer is hurt, the way things have worked out here, that kind of solves the outfield jam to a degree, because now Rafael's playing the infield and and now Anthony's it kind of fixed that thing. So it kind of puts you in a weird spot. I don't know. I mean, I think they're going to be aggressive this offseason with it.
Yeah.
And again, I don't love the deadline, but I don't think they got worse. I think they're still a good team this year. I think they're still a playoff team this year.
Yeah. It's just for me, and I don't know much about baseball, and I will not lie about that fact. I just thought you're trading, and maybe you think Kyle Harrison is the big piece from the Devers trade. To me, this kid Fitz, who supposedly is a very good prospect, you
was
just
one of
got
the big pieces for sure. Yeah,
and you traded him for a guy that isn't good. I don't get it. But
yeah, that I definitely don't love. It felt like what it felt like is they had talked too much about doing something and then realized they had to do something, otherwise they were going to look real silly. So they made a dumb trade.
well,
And maybe they know something we don't. I don't
yeah.
know, but like
The
I
other
don't.
part of it, and this was it. Who the hell was on? Somebody was on. It was Boston Sports Tonight. I forget. My dad just texted me the same thing, but someone was on Boston Sports Tonight. Was it Gammons? Was it? I don't know who it was. Might have been Gammons. I'm not sure. Doesn't matter. But he was saying like they were like there was a chance that May wasn't going to make the playoff roster, so they were looking to move him. And so if that's the case, and you're giving up legitimate prospects for a guy like that, like what the hell are you doing? That's crazy to me.
Well, I do think he probably makes you better because he's going to be one of your 5 best starters, but like he's a floor raiser, but you're not raising the floor that much higher. And like
Right.
when you're in the playoffs, you're only going to have a 3 or 4 man
Doesn't matter.
rotation anyway. So maybe he helps there, but like I don't know how much that does for you. I mean, if this team competes this year, this point, it's going to be because Roman Anthony continues to improve, and the fact that Christian Campbell's playing better too is like, all right, if he can come up and do something for you,
yep,
that might fix things. I will say, I do think that really the biggest thing in the Devers trade that you're getting is the money freed up,
right.
And at this point, it would be where I would call them an embarrassment at this point is if they're not able to re-sign Bregman. Because that's just a choice.
Yeah.
Like that is
it's just money.
If you're not going to spend that money on Bregman after what he's done this year and the culture stuff and the relationship he's built with all of your young players, you are an embarrassment at that point. Because that is real franchise building stuff right there. And you're paying for past production with him because he's older to a degree. The end years of that contract, whatever he gets, are not going to be pretty.
But who cares?
That's
right.
That's how baseball works. So suck it up and deal with it and pay him the money.
Exactly. All right, let's go away from the trade deadline in one sport to a trade conversation in a different sport. Terry McLaurin today requested a trade from the Commanders, and again, he didn't officially request a trade because he didn't come out and say, we'll trade or whatever, but he's asking for a trade. He's 30 years old. He'll be 30 years old when the season starts, or whatever, 2 weeks after the season starts. And he wants to get paid $30 million a year. I don't blame him for that. I totally understand that. What would you give up? Because yes. Would I trade for Terry McLaurin? The answer is yes. Would you trade for Terry McLaurin? The answer is yes. The question is, how much would you give up for the opportunity to pay Terry McLaurin $30 million a year?
Well, I think that's the thing, and I think there's a couple factors to look at here. I think the starting point for any discussion here is going to be DK Metcalf, though, because he just got traded this offseason. I believe same draft class as McLaurin. Also a very productive receiver. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I believe that McLaurin has been more productive than Metcalf.
He has been.
McLaurin has been a much healthier player in his career. It's funny. You look through Terry McLaurin's injury history, and there is not a lot in there. He's missed like 3 or 4 games in his career, and he's gone like 5 years in a row without missing a game. So doesn't have any of the durability concerns that Metcalf has had. Flip side, Terry McLaurin is a full 2 years older, and for wide receiver, age can be a killer. And he turned, he's 29 right now. He'll be 30 by week 3. For all intents and purposes, Terry McLaurin, a 30-year-old wide receiver.
Correct.
So the way I look at it is this. DK Metcalf got basically a 4-year deal, so I think $130 million with, it was either 130 or 120, but 68 guaranteed. So it's almost like the first 2 years of a 4-year deal guaranteed at $30 million per. And he got traded for a second round pick. If I'm New England, I would do one of those two things. I'd be willing to give that big of a contract, or I'm willing to give up the second round pick. I don't think I would do both.
Right.
And I might even be willing to guarantee a little bit more money. I really like Terry McLaurin as a player. I think he'd be fantastic for you. Yeah, I have some concerns, but I'll save that for later. I think we're starting on the positive note. Like that I think those are my constraints. What would you give up for?
Well, so here's the thing, and the DK Metcalf one is interesting, right? The other interesting one's Amari Cooper. Now, Amari Cooper's, I think he's 31 right now. So I believe when he was traded to Cleveland, he was 28, 29, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. Okay. So again, similar age to now it's a little bit different scenario because he wasn't necessarily at the end of his contract. He really just kind of wasn't happy in Dallas. It's not.
I think they had a cap crunch too, right?
I believe so. Yeah,
to free up some space. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he was traded for a 5th and a swap of 6th-round picks, which is complete insanity for a guy that the year before had 865 yards receiving, and the year before that had 92 catches for 1,100 yards in Dallas, right? So, like, he had put together, 2 straight 1,000-yard seasons and then had a little bit of an off year. I think he was hurt in 2021. But the point remains, and then, of course, he went on to Cleveland to, 2 straight years of 1,000 yards there and then kind of 4 hours welcome there in Cleveland and ended up in Buffalo last year. But Terry McLaurin is a wide receiver 1. He's a true wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
And I think your point, right? Your point is very valid. If he were a free agent and you were paying him $30 million a year and the Patriots wanted to go out and give him a 4-year, $122 million deal, I'd say do it. And I would say do it because I don't care, similar to the Bregman conversation we just had, I don't care that at the end of the contract he's 34 years old, and maybe that last year he's not very good. I don't care. Because right now, I want to pair up the best possible players with Drake May. When he's on his rookie contract, where we are right now. In 3 years, who knows what the salary cap is going to be in 3 years? So pay him the $30 million a year, and then there might be 10 receivers at $30 million a year by the time, in 3 years. And then who cares? He's the 12th highest paid receiver. So what, And so, that for me is something that I think makes a ton of sense. Now, the question is, what can you get for him? What, if Washington actually is going to trade him, what can you get for him? And in my personal opinion, I think the Commanders will absolutely not trade him.
No, I don't think they do.
But if I were Washington, I'd call the Patriots and I'd say, okay, we're starting with one of your top young receivers, and I'd be asking for a 2nd-round pick, and then the Patriots would probably try to drop you down to a 3rd or a 4th-round pick. But if you told me Kayshon Boutte and a 3rd or 4th-round pick, I'd do that in a second.
Well, and I think Boutte is the perfect guy. Like, one of the reasons I would give up a little bit less in draft capital is because I think Boutte is exactly the guy you'd want to offer back here. He very quickly becomes expendable, when it comes to, well, first of all, Diggs and McLaurin are your wide receivers 1 and 2.
Right.
Ops your slot. Your top 3 receivers are figured out. Your guys off the bench, Kyle Williams is going to figure in, and Mack Hollins can do the other stuff and be a backup and a special teamer. And, that's your top 5. That works. Guys fit positions. It works.
Yep.
Boutte played with Jaden Daniels in college. So they have some chemistry there. He's young. He's cheap. I think there's a fit there. You can kind of sell high on him after how he played last year. and use that to cheapen the draft capital. The other reason I want to do that, you look at the DK Metcalf trade. That trade's right before the draft. I forget exactly when that happened.
Yeah, a few weeks before, but essentially right before the draft. Yeah.
What's important there is that you know what pick you're trading. You know exactly the number of the pick that you're giving.
Mm-hmm.
If you go give a second for Terry McLaurin and Drake May gets hurt in week 2, all of a sudden you may have accidentally just traded, the 38th pick in the draft,
right, for
McLaurin, and that's 38 and 52, which is what DK fetched, is a pretty big difference. So yeah, I think a package around Booty and a third is what I would like. I feel like that is ideal for New England and fair value given other things. It's just then we got to look at the other part of this. Like the Patriots tried to trade for Brandon Ayuk. You offered, that's a younger player, but you offer a second, a fourth, Kendrick Bourne, and that's enough for San Francisco to sign off on it. But you can't do the contract part. And I think I suspect what'll happen here is they're going to say, yeah, go shop yourself around. And he's going to go around the league and he's going to find that there's not a lot of teams willing to offer, the guaranteed money in year 3 of this contract that he wants. And you come back to the table in Washington meets him in the middle somewhere and they get a deal done. Right. And that's how San Francisco has done it. That's exactly what they did with Ayuk. And it's the same people in Washington. That's where they learned it from.
Right. Well, and that's ultimately what's going to happen, right? Is that unless the Patriots or another team is willing to get stupid with McLaurin and give up the capital to get him, he's going to stay there. And again, if I'm Washington, I'm betting that that's the case. And oh, by the way, if I were Washington and the Patriots came back and he went to New England and he said, this is what I want. And they said, all right, we'll give you full for 122. Do you know what I would do if I were Washington? When he came back and said, yep, they're going to pay me what I want, I'd say, well, wait a second, hold on. Instead of you going there and getting what you want, how about we just pay you that and see what he says? And maybe they won't, right? Maybe they won't. But again, you're talking about Jaden Daniels here. You were in the NFC Championship game last year, right? Like the first year of what you felt was going to be a rebuild, you were in the NFC Championship game. If you trade Terry McLaurin, you have Deebo Samuel, Luke McCaffrey, I guess, and a whole bunch of crap.
Kayshon Boutte.
Right, and that's right, and Kayshon Boutte. And that's it. That's your, it's like, oh my God. Like that's not great. It's not great.
Well, I do feel like that coming back to the New England perspective, what'll make it tough for the Patriots, you got cap space now. Right now, according to, I think, over the cap, Patriots are actually over the cap for next year. So they will have to roll money over. So there's accounting things they can do, and we'll see how much the cap goes up and things like that. But the cap space for next year is a real concern. Not like a massive one, but something you do have to work with. But 2028 is the year I look at. That would be the third year for McLaurin, where I'm going to assume he's probably looking for the guarantees. He will be 33 years old at the beginning of, a couple weeks into that season, which is, I think, a year older than Diggs is now. And that would be, Drake May's 5th-year option and the Christian Gonzalez extension.
Right.
Those two guys are getting paid real money at that point. So I did some fun math on this because I was curious. Rudimentary stuff, just projecting what the cap might be that year based on how it's increased, and then the other contracts the Patriots already have on the books for that year, which as things stand right now, the Patriots have like $99 million against the cap already that season. Most of that is like Christian Barmore and Milton Williams. Neither of those are guaranteed at that point. So none of that money is real. There's only like $9 million real dollars that we know for sure they're spending that year.
Yeah.
But May on a 5th-year option based on the current rate would be like $44 million that year.
Which, by the way, he won't be playing. He will not be playing on a 5th-year option.
No, he'll get an extension, but it's going to be, that number's going to start with a 4 at a minimum. And if it's an extension, and depending on how they do an extension, you can lower the number that year and have it be higher later. But that's just based on that. That's going to start with a 4. Christian Gonzalez's contract that's going to start with a 3 for his cap hit that year. And I just plugged in the DK Metcalf contract for Terry, which would be a $34 million cap hit then. And all in all, with those guys, plus assuming Barmore, Milton Williams are still on the books, it also has like Ramondre Stevenson on the books then for $11 million, which I don't think happens. But if they're all still on the books, that's over half your cap gone already. I'm not necessarily against that. This isn't a like no, don't do it argument. This is just laying it out to see what that actually looks like, and that's before a Keon White extension, which hopefully will be coming. Now, as a percentage of the cap, it's under 10%, so like I can be okay with it. But the guarantees are what matter, because the last thing you want is that by that point Terry McLaurin is like a high end wide receiver 3 because the aging hits him fast. And things dry up, and it's a $30 or $40 million dead cap hit if you want to get rid of him. And, that's supposed to be Drake May's peak right there. That's supposed to be his prime. And you can't, you're stuck with the cap because you just have this anchor on you. So I think any contract, you just need to mitigate against that. And that doesn't mean no guarantees year 3. It just means structure it in a way that you can get out of it. Which I'm sure is what Terry doesn't want, and that's probably the holdup.
Yeah, and that would be kind of where I would be sitting, would be saying like, look, we'll pay you now, and we'll give you the money, and we'll give you some guarantee. We'll give you a whole bunch of guarantees, but I'm not guaranteeing the whole contract. I'm not doing that.
Like DK didn't get that, and he's younger, so if you honestly, if it's the DK contract, nothing higher than a 3rd round pick. And then Booty going back the other way, I'd do that. I'm saying yes to that. Yeah. I'd prefer, I think, a little bit less than the DK contract, just factoring in the fact that he's older. I feel like those 2 years in particular are important.
Yeah, which I understand.
Yeah, but I would go that high, I think.
Yeah, and that's really the question. But again, I just come back to the fact that I just can't believe that they would do that. And again, maybe they will. But I just can't believe that with the situation that you're in, you're going to turn around and trade your best offensive player outside of your quarterback. Like, I know you picked up Debo, but
that's not the same Debo.
it just feels kind of silly to do something like that, especially if you're getting back. Even if you're getting back a 3rd in Kayshon Boutte, well, that doesn't make you better. And I know that you're saying, well, we're going to be better in the future, but like you get significantly worse this year, right? Yeah, and that doesn't help you at all. And oh, by the way, if Kayshon Boutte gets really good and has 2 really good years, you're going to be in the exact same situation next year. If Kayshon Boutte puts up a big, has a big season this year, he's going to be going into a contract year next year.
I will say, I think the difference is that Boutte would be going into his 2nd contract. McLaurin's going into his 3rd here, and I think the age is a big factor. Like if it's the same situation, but Terry is 25 instead of 29 right now, I'm having a very different conversation, and we're talking about a 1st round pick. Like that
I agree with. Well, that's what's it called? That's Amari Cooper, when Amari Cooper was traded to Dallas, was traded for a 1st round pick, right? And so that it's one of those things. So
I think what's remarkable about Terry McLaurin is how consistent he's been. Other than his rookie year, he's had at least 1,000 yards in every year, and as a rookie, he's had over 900 playing 14 games. And like Washington has not had good quarterbacks in this stretch. And he's still doing that. Like he's on a little bit of a Mike Evans trajectory here almost. He's just older. Like McLaurin was drafted in 2019. We talked about earlier this offseason, Chris Godwin, who I was willing to throw a lot of money at, was drafted in 2017. And he is younger than Terry McLaurin is.
Yeah.
Which I think that's the big factor here. And Terry's he has to act in his own self-interest. Here, he should be trying to get as much long-term guaranteed as possible because we all know what can happen to receivers in this league. And that's the one part that I think makes me cautious about it, is that if the numbers seem reasonable in New England and Washington is refusing to match that, a little bit of an alarm has to go off, because they seem to have a smart front office.
Yeah.
And, what do they know that we don't? Why are they not willing to offer this money? And it depends on exactly what the money is going to be. That's going to come down to probably some fine details. But,
Right.
Are they just being too cautious about it? Is there some kind of locker room thing that we don't know about that they have under control?
Which I can't imagine is the case.
We haven't heard
Every
anything.
single thing I've heard about McLaurin has been glowing. So
yeah,
that would be surprising, but you never know.
Yeah, but all right, but you start asking, what do they know that we don't? And it could just be the Washington's wrong on it if they decide to move off. That happens. I think I'd be willing to take that risk, but I think that's just probably my big that and the age.
Yeah. So Old Man Mob suggested that the Commanders would trade McLaurin and then go after Tyreek Hill. And I don't necessarily hate that idea. It would be surprising for me to see the Dolphins trade him. I also don't know, does the dead cap come off of your cap if you trade a player?
No, the dead cap is what sticks no matter what.
I'm saying if you trade him, dead cap stays on your cap?
I think there are things you can do. Depends on why it's there. There are probably things you can do to finagle it. But yeah, I think the Dolphins are on the hook for. That's a
$57 million dead cap hit this year.
Yeah.
So they're not trading Tyreek Hill. That's not happening. He's staying.
Things would have to be really bad internally for them. To be fair, Tua has had some weird comments on Tyreek, so maybe they are. Things have been weird there for a while. And it's if I'm Miami, I don't hate the idea from a distance of saying, yeah, this isn't working, we're going to blow this up. But nothing else they've done this offseason indicates that's how they're thinking about things.
Yeah.
Inside
that would just surprise me.
Going back to the DK thing, by the way, I will say the other side of that, if you are Seattle trading DK away, when you get pick 52, we get to use that for this year's team to help them. For Washington, that's a year away. One of the other ideas that was floating around in my head to make things work is all right, if you gave a third in 2026, a fourth in 2027, and Kayshon Boutte, I feel like that's fair value. But that's also how good's the third rounder going to be? How good's the fourth rounder going to be? Especially if those are developmental guys. We're talking about guys who might not, if they're good players, might not be until 2028, 2029.
Right.
That's a whole championship window away if you're Washington. That's why I look at this, and in some ways the thing that almost makes the most sense is some kind of a player for player trade, and Patriots don't really again, unless you were going to include Pop Douglas. I don't know if he's even, he's still pretty far below the Terry tier, but I don't know. All right, here, I'll throw this around. If they wanted Pop and Kayshon Boutte in a trade, would you consider that?
Yeah, I probably would, depending on what else I had to give up.
Yeah, I'm probably not giving up anything higher than a fourth.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're trading both, what's crazy to me is that, and listen, anything could happen, right? But what's crazy to me is that, Kay Adams was just here. Good Morning Football was just, or whatever the show is now that's on NFL Network, was just here. Rappaport and what's his face? Sakes, his name's escaping me.
The one who was interviewing Ramondre
Stevenson. Was it Garofalo?
Yeah, who called Ramondre Stevenson Trevion Henderson at the end of the interview.
Yikes.
Which was very funny. Because they had Trevion coming up in the next one.
Right. But anyway, so, those guys come in, and all anyone talked about was how good Pop was. How good Pop looked and how impressed they were with Pop. And so to go from that to then trading him, it would be a lot. But, that's the way it goes, I guess, sometimes, Especially if that happened this week. Washington coming in next week, that'd be wild.
People have talked about how, that means Terry McLaurin will be in a Foxborough, and maybe that's that's a chance to get things done. And maybe it is, but if he's not reporting, it's not going to matter where.
It doesn't make a difference. Yeah.
And maybe it matters to the front office because you can have those conversations in person and talk through things. And like maybe it helps because you get on-field time with a player you might be getting back if you're Washington.
Yeah.
But I feel like the easiest part of this still would be putting together a trade package that Washington likes. The hard part's going to be the contract negotiations. Like that's what you got to figure out here. And they have shown they're willing to spend on receivers the money they are willing to throw around for Ayuk and Godwin. This front office has shown the willingness. They just haven't gotten someone to bite on it yet. Maybe Terry's the guy that does. Maybe this is the one where it finally works. I do think he and May would be an awesome connection. So like that would be.
I think so too. Yeah.
He and Diggs would work well off each other, and then it gives you a really good transition plan where like if Diggs is good, like pop Diggs and Terry McLaurin for the next like 2 years would be sick. He pops up for a contract after that. You see if you keep him or not. Then, because you're already paying 2 receivers at that point. But then like Kyle Williams can probably step up and fill that. And then Diggs' contract's up after that, and Kyle Williams can step up again. And then by then, I think Terry's contract might be starting to get close, and you've hopefully got young talent in the pipeline. And like, all right, you got a very clear 2-3 year window where you have the receiving talent,
right?
And you just know,
feeling
all right,
good about your
defense, shore up the defense, shore up the offensive line, and then like you talk about losing. We're getting really into the weeds here, but if you're losing draft capital in a trade. But you fixed left tackle and you fixed wide receiver. Now with that first round pick, you can either use it on a luxury type thing or trade back, try to get a bunch of second and third round picks out of that. And it's like, all right, we're going to go attack, center or guard, look for right tackle there, look for defensive pieces,
right.
Have a lot of ammo to go do that stuff. That puts you in a really good spot.
Yeah, it's true. This is an interesting question. I know my answer. I'm curious about what your answer is. Old Man Mobs asks, would you trade Stephon Diggs for Terry McLaurin?
Man, I almost lean no here. Not because, like, when it comes to player ability, yeah, I think Terry's better. He's healthier. He's younger. I'm not worried. Like, that's the issue, I think, is the contract stuff. I'm not entirely just looking at. Hold on. Let me see what they say it would be. Maybe not. Maybe I would. A trade post June 1 with Diggs right now. It's safe. $4 million dead, 4.7 in cap savings. It ends up being kind of net neutral there. I'd think about it at least. It's just if you're giving up Diggs in that, I'm not giving up a high draft pick.
Right.
And I feel like Washington would end up preferring a package that's going to be like Booty in a third, and then go, if they want a veteran receiver, make a separate deal. Or maybe a 3-team deal. I don't know. That's
kind of what I would think. Diggs getting $20 million a year, right? What's really the difference, I guess? Obviously $10 million a year is a lot, right? But like, if you're Washington, like, you're trading for a guy coming off an ACL who looks good, but coming off an ACL who's getting $20 million a year as well. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, and Diggs, his cap hit this year is small, like $8 million, but it's 26 and 26 the next 2 years.
Yeah.
If he plays on it, not a lot guaranteed. So like it would be, I think it would be easy for Washington to get out of. Oh yeah, and that we would be absorbing the dead money, so it'd be easy for Washington to get out of if things don't work.
Right.
So it's appealing to them. Like that would be the appeal of Tyreek Hill too. Like, yeah, he's expensive and older, but you can have him for exactly as long as you want, and then get rid of him with no cost whenever it's not working anymore. Versus the issue with McLaurin, I'm assuming on their end, is that it's going to lock you into something for a certain amount of time that they're uncomfortable with.
Right.
And flexibility matters in the NFL.
Yep. Yeah. So, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Would
you be willing to include a first round pick in a trade for McLaurin?
No. Yeah. I'm not sending a first. It's like you said, there's too many variables. And again, I think the Patriots are going to be good. But when I say good, like that's compared to the 2024 Patriots, who were the worst team in the league. Like, I think the Patriots are going to be like, a plucky underdog type of team that's going to win 8, maybe 9 games. Well, if a few things break wrong for you and you win 5 or 6, now you're talking about a probable top 10 pick. Like, there's no way I'm trading that. No way I'm trading that for Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
So if it was next year and I felt really good about Drake May and I knew Will Campbell was going to be a stud and Jared Wilson was at left guard and I'm like, okay, our offensive line is really good. Like, I'm feeling good about it. Maybe we drafted a right tackle in the first round next year. We drafted 15 or 16. We drafted a right tackle, and I'm like, all right, our offensive line is set. The defense kind of built on what they did last year, and I'm feeling good about things. And I'm like, all right, we're like a playoff team. That's a different story. I don't think they're a playoff team this year. I just don't. And they could be, but I think that there's a ton of outcomes that could happen. More probable than not. They're not going to be a playoff team, and that's the way I feel about it. So why give up a first round pick if, it could be 15, could be 17, could also be friggin' 8. Like, who knows?
Yeah. When the Bengals, I don't think the Bengals traded. They went 9-8 last year and had pick 18. I'm not giving up pick 18 for the right to pay Terry McLaurin $130 million. Like, that's just not good business. Not when you're in this point. And
interestingly enough, pick 18 is what the Eagles gave up for AJ Brown. But AJ Brown was like 25. That's a completely different scenario.
If Terry McLaurin is 25 years old and producing the way AJ Brown was at that point, I'm giving up that first rounder for him. I'm not thinking about that. Well, if it's that type of situation, I'm doing that before. Well, maybe not before the draft because you're losing Will Campbell, but willing to do that beyond that early. It's a weird. This is that awkward area for players with contracts where they're like Diggs is in like a clear area where it's like, all right, he's rehabbing, he's worth a certain amount of money. There's a clear pattern to go off of for contract structure. McLaurin's you have no clue what player you're getting in year 2, year 3, year 4 of that extension.
Yeah.
That could be a Pro Bowler, all pro level guy. That it could go the way of Kenny Golladay, where it's like, oh well, this guy lost it overnight, and we can't play him anymore, and that's what that age does to players. And I mean, even look at Devontae Adams. I think Devontae Adams is 1 year older than Diggs,
right?
And he's very clearly not the same player. And it's not really an injury thing; he's just not the same player he was before,
right?
And if that's the player the Patriots are paying almost 10% of their salary cap for in 2028, that caliber receiver, I think we'd get pretty bummed out by that.
Yeah,
because it just limits what you're able to do.
Right. And you're not the Chiefs, you're not the Bills, you're not a team that's competing for the championship right now. That's to me is a different animal, and so. That's the way I look at it and say, all right, am I willing to trade for him? Sure. Am I willing to pay him? Sure. But how much am I willing to do either of those? How much am I willing to give up for him? And how much am I willing to pay him? And it's just but not a ton. And maybe I'll mention the Ravens. That's a great team. It's a great example of if the Ravens got McLaurin, you're talking about a fringe Super Bowl contender that instantly their offense becomes better. And, Lamar, I feel has gotten better as a passer every year. And it's you drop Terry McLaurin into that offense, you're holy crap. You know what I mean?
Well, and then the other reason, a team like the Ravens would make sense is that you could send someone back like Rashad Bateman or Zay Flowers in the trade because you're just replacing him with McLaurin. And that's much more appealing for Washington as well. And it's definitely a downgrade at receiver, but you're still getting a guy who's a clear NFL starter who can produce at a high level. I don't think Baltimore has the cap space to
but they don't. This. But
and I don't know if they would want to either. No, I think it's a great fit. I'm just looking at other teams to see who's going to be interested. Well, this is the other thing. This is an awkward time to do this because everyone's paid their free agents this year.
Right.
So there's no this is kind of why it happened with Ayuk. It's Ayuk goes around and it's all right, well, he only had a couple of suitors and he was very picky about it. And he wasn't just interested in the money, he wanted a location too.
Mm-hmm.
That's all right. well, there's only like 2 or 3 teams interested that need a receiver right now and have the money to do it, and you're only willing to go to one. Well, all of a sudden, the leverage has immediately gone to the 49ers in that situation because of that. And we'll see how McLaurin plays this. But I'm just looking at the teams that have cap space right now. Patriots are number 1 after that. Like, I don't see the Lions making this trade. I don't see the 49ers making this trade. I don't see the Raiders doing it. I don't think I see the Cardinals doing it. I don't see the Seahawks doing it. Maybe the Chargers? That's interesting. Yeah. Well, only because, receivers still a need for them, and Harbaugh, coached against, what do you call it? McLaurin. So, like, because he was an Ohio State guy, and, like,
right.
He would know him well, so I don't know for sure, but I'm going to assume he probably talked to him at some point on the recruiting trail. So, like, there's some knowledge there. Chargers, I think, is very interesting. Cowboys, in theory, I don't think that's in practice.
But there's just not a lot of teams that would do it.
No.
There's a few. There's not a lot.
There's a lot of teams that I'm sure want him, but there's just it has to make sense.
Yeah. By the way, just a quick interesting note, just something that's not really no one's going to care about, but I care about it. The Steelers, I just looked it up just out of curiosity. Steelers at 52 traded 52 and 82, I think. 52 and
no, I think it was like 52 and a 7th for a 6th.
Nope, 52 and 82.
Oh.
They trade not the DK trade.
Oh, okay.
Not the Steelers, the Seahawks, I'm sorry. Hello.
Oh, okay.
Danny. The Seahawks got 52 from the Steelers. They traded 52 and 82 to the Titans for pick 35 for Nick Manwari, the crazy fast safety.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, at 52, the Titans drafted Oladeju, the edge defender, and at 82, they drafted Kevin Winston Jr., who I actually think has a chance to be a better safety than the guy the Seahawks drafted at 35. So I was just like looking at the thing, and I'm like, wait a second, like they got a better safety at 82 for goodness sake.
Yeah, that's a very fun collection of players.
Yeah.
So I hope the Patriots get McLaurin. As a Patriots fan, I want him. As an NFL fan, I do think McLaurin in LA with the Chargers is a lot of fun. I would like that as a team that has to compete against them, but I think that makes a lot of sense, would be entertaining. I do think, unless McLaurin is very willing to be flexible on some of the contract stuff, and unless Washington is like really crazy lowballing him here, I think he probably just ends up back in Washington.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll see. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll be back. We're going to talk about the offensive line a little bit, and maybe we'll get into a little Mack Hollins conversation too. You never know. All right, this ad break, of course, for PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to share your sports knowledge and the cash with millions of members. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. Now, remember, football season has started. Okay, I know it's just preseason, but football season has started. There are football games going on. There's one going on right now, as a matter of fact, as we speak. But football is happening right now. Baseball is still going on. Women's basketball is still going on. Esports is always going on. And again, this brings in my favorite feature of PrizePicks, which is that you're able to mix and match your lineups from different sports. So the fact that you can have a baseball player and a women's basketball player and a football player if you want, what's better than that? Okay. And so you can do all that. Again, PrizePicks also does offer Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals as well. So what are you going to do? You're going to go to, you're going to download the app PrizePicks. You're going to put in the promo code CLNS. And when you play your first $5 lineup, you get $50 guaranteed. Now, don't forget, tomorrow's Tuesday. That's Taco Tuesday. That means 15 to 25% is going to be discounted off of certain players' roster lineups, right? I mean, that's pretty sweet, right? So projections that are on the board, 15, 25% on certain players. So again, download the app PrizePicks, put in the promo code CLNS. When you do that, you play your first $5 lineup, you get $50 instantly. PrizePicks. Run your game. All right. So, offensive line. And
we're going back to the tried and true of this podcast.
That's right, baby. We're
back to the offensive line.
We're an offensive line podcast. This is great. I played tight end in high school, right? But I was really the sixth offensive lineman. I just, we couldn't throw the ball. Number one, I'm slow as molasses. Number two, and I love hitting guys. So it was fun. I was basically a third tackle on the team. But offensive lines, that's my jam. Jared Wilson. So Garrett Bradbury goes out with an injury on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? The first day of pads, I believe.
Or Monday was first day of pads.
Yeah, so Monday, Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday he went out on the second day of full pads. Tuesday he goes out. Which, by the way, can we just say, I sat on this podcast Monday night and said Brock Lampy looked fantastic, but I said let's see how he holds up over time, and then he lasted. He literally was on the IR when they went to go practice the next day.
They had probably already written up the paperwork to put him on injured reserve when you said that on the show.
Listen, no inside information. That's just I saw him coming off the field, and I was like, man, he just doesn't look like he can hold up all season long. But I guess maybe he was banged up.
Correct. He'll return though. Yeah.
Yes. He'll be stronger, back and better than ever next year, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But anyways, Bradbury goes down with an injury on Tuesday. And so how do you play it, right? What do you want to do? Jared Wilson goes in at left guard. Ben Brown elevates to the top center, and Cole Strange goes to the twos, working at center. That same exact offensive line was out there today in just a walkthrough. But nevertheless, that same exact offensive line was out there. It appears that Jared Wilson has, at least for the time being, won that left guard job. I think he's played well enough to do it. I think he looks like a starter out there. And I think what might end up happening here is that Jared Wilson's your starting left guard, and then it's between Ben Brown, Cole Strange, and Garrett Bradbury for center. And if that's the situation, I don't necessarily hate it. Now, do I love the idea of two rookies playing next to each other on the offensive line? Not necessarily. But if they're good enough, it doesn't necessarily matter. And if you can get at least competent, I'm just talking about NFL, replacement level play from your center. I think that's okay for this year.
Well, and I will say, I think I've got to break this discussion into a couple of parts, but I'll start with what you said about the two rookies. I actually like it. They're going to go through lumps, but the fact that they can go through that together as a pair, and maybe you can just lock that in, if it works. Just don't even bother with Wilson at center and leave him at left guard if it's working, right. And he can stay with Campbell, and you can hopefully lock that in for a minimum the next 4 years, assuming they play well. Two very athletic players. So the idea of them developing as a unit on the left side really appeals to me. I'm very happy that Wilson has looked good enough in practice that he's earning these reps. Obviously, what this means is that so far he's better than the other Patriots interior offensive linemen. We'll see how that compares to, other offensive linemen around the league and how he compares against defensive linemen for other teams. But the one-on-one drills, from reading about how he's performed well there. And it seems that the biggest issue for him is just he's a little bit raw, so it's harnessing that. But we see this sometimes in football where a prospect comes out that's raw, but he gets to the NFL and it's oh yeah, he fixed it. All he needed was just a little bit more professional coaching and another year of football, and he fixed a lot of the issues. And maybe that's Jared Wilson here for the center position. I will say, I think there's a chance that he's not locked in at starting left guard. He's just there because Bradbury's out, and they're going to roll with this for now, and they're still going to play with it. And I don't care if they play with it as long as they're able to find something that works. I'm not married to the idea of him having a guaranteed starting five right now. They just need to have that by week one. That's what matters.
I agree.
They need to know who their best five are by then. I do notice that Jared Wilson had snap issues with Drake May. Cole Strange, I believe, had snap issues with Drake May. I think
Once or twice, yeah.
maybe Bradbury did as well.
Bradbury did as well.
Yeah.
Starts to look like a quarterback problem and not a center problem.
But you look at who's there now, and it's Ben Brown, who he worked with last year. So there's a little part of me that goes, okay, maybe they're having some issues with the snaps, and they said, all right, we're going to try this with Ben Brown right now because we know the snap part's going to be okay because he and May have worked together before, and we can see if we can coach up Ben Brown in this role.
Yeah.
And Wilson's, I think they feel I'll be shocked if Wilson's not starting week 1 at this point, just how he's performed relative to the other guys out there. Strange, I think, is probably in a tough spot right now because if he can't win the starting job he's the second left guard and the third center at best. So
right,
that's a tough spot for him. And we'll see what happens
to win that job.
We'll see what happens when Bradbury comes back.
Right.
But if this ends up being a line where it's going to be, Campbell, Wilson, Bradbury, Ben Brown's your backup center, and we'll see what they do with the backup guard spot. I'm fine with that left side. I think that gets you through this year, and you address next offseason from there.
Well, I'll say this: if Jared Wilson plays well at left guard, I just leave him there. Yeah. Why move him to center? Like, just leave him there and draft a center or sign a center. Draft a center in the 4th round. That you think. I mean, Creed Humphrey went what in the 3rd round, or did he go? He might have gone in the 2nd round, but
David Andrews was undrafted.
David Andrews undrafted, right?
And it's easier to find centers than it is to find guards, and it's easier to find guards than it is tackles. So that's the value is highest at the outside and lowest at the inside. So Wilson, and especially if there's snap issues, let Wilson be a guard.
Yep.
If it's working, just let him do it. Don't mess with it.
Right, and I think that's my biggest thing. So like, if it works out at left guard, just leave him there. Just leave him there and let him stay at left guard. And then you feel like if Campbell continues to progress, and listen, well, I'll get into the Will Campbell conversation in a bit, but you feel like left guard is solidified, right guard is solidified. You hope that left tackle is solidified, and then right tackle you got to figure out, and center you got to figure out. But you could figure out center. You can figure it out. Ben Brown wasn't great last year. I think he was probably below replacement level last year. But if you can get replacement level play at center, you just feel like that's okay. That's good enough. If my other 4 spots are all pretty good, I'm okay at center. I can coach someone up to be a decent center. Maybe not great center, but to be a decent center. And that's fine.
When you look at last year's line, Mack Hollins is your best offensive lineman. But Darian Lowe probably ends up being your second best offensive lineman of guys who are regularly playing. And then Ben Brown probably ends up being your 3rd best offensive lineman. Yeah. And now you're asking Ben Brown to be your 5th best in that alignment. Much less responsibility. So, that's just an easier spot for him. And if he's still bad, it's not gonna be as bad for you. He's gonna show up less.
Well, the other part of it is this: if he's bad, you got 2 guys behind him. Now, maybe you don't feel great about Bradbury, and maybe Bradbury just ends up being the starting center when it all said and done, right? But like, maybe it's Cole Strange. Maybe I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, if he's bad, then whatever, And
you can do in-season moves. So you can trade for someone, you can sign someone if needed. And also worth noting, Ben Brown was an in-season move last year. This is his first off-season in New England. He's still a relatively young player. The idea that he could develop into a starting level center is not crazy.
Right.
So I thought he had some moments last year. I wouldn't bank on it, but I was happy that he was back in this mix. And you see where you go from here. I will say, at this point, I'm almost, more concerned about what's going on with Morgan Moses because I still can't tell how well he's practicing.
Yeah, Morgan Moses has been up and down. And again, it's practice. It's difficult to know. It's difficult to know the situation, really. He hasn't looked great, that's for sure. But you also wonder, he's an older guy. Is it I'm not sure. He's an older guy. Do you feel like, he's going to fix that stuff by the time the season comes? I don't know. So that's to me, at least, obviously center is a question mark, but right tackle is a big question mark for me. Like, we need better play out of him once season comes, and I think we'll get it. Yeah. I'm fairly confident that he'll be pretty good. I just don't know how good. The Will Campbell conversation, I wrote an article today on Pat's Pulpit because I had to do it. Look, and I know one thing I'll say about you, Matt, is that you were pretty consistent that you didn't love Will Campbell at left tackle. However, you're also rational, and you're not going to run to Twitter after one bad day of practice and say, see, I told you so. He can't play left tackle. And it's like, he had like 4 bad reps.
I'm not,
like, you know what I mean? It's crazy.
I'm not making a single concrete judgment of any kind about any one of these players until it's regular season games anyway. I mean,
that's correct.
You remember the tizzy people had about Jamar Chase and drop issues in the preseason?
I drafted Kyle Pitts. You remember I drafted in our dynasty league, I drafted Kyle Pitts over Jamar Chase in the rookie draft.
Because of that?
Well, and also because there's only so many good tight ends and position scarcity, all that stupid crap.
Well, this is the year for Kyle Pitts.
That's going to happen. It's going to happen this year.
Yeah, but it's just like not. You don't overreact to what happened though, because especially the rookies, they're young and learning, and the learning curve is steep. That also means you can get through it quick. Like you can grow really quickly. You can suck this past Monday and have fixed this issue by Friday.
Right.
But that's where we're at with this stuff. So
and the other thing is that it's practice.
Yeah.
Like it's literally practice. This is like we're watching them practice. And so that's really what's going on, right? Is that if rookies aren't making mistakes in practice, then not enough is being thrown at them because he should be dealing with things. And I thought Morgan Moses really was interesting because he was talking about how, obviously as a group, they talk together, the offensive linemen, but then the defensive linemen will talk to them and say, hey, you made this move, or, I went inside and you countered with this and that really didn't work. So like maybe try this next time or whatever. Like the fact that the offensive and defensive linemen meet and talk about different things, I think is a fascinating little wrinkle in there as well, because they're playing off each other. Hey, this works against me. So when you do this against an opposing tackle, this will work. Or like, here's how you can combat that better, and so like all that stuff to use each other. And again, it's practice. You're going to make mistakes. And realistically, it was Will Campbell's 3rd ever practice as an NFL player. Right. So like he struggled. He absolutely struggled 100%. Like there's no way around it. But if after the first 2 days you were victory lapping and saying, yeah, I told you all pro tag. It's like, wait a second, dude. Like we're 2 days in, like relax, And so now it goes the other way and it's like, it's fine. It's going to happen.
Well, and especially with offensive line, like that's a position where you're really not going to start to have a clue until the preseason games when it's a real game environment, because practice and for the lines is such a different animal here, especially going against your own guys.
Right.
And I do think there's a certain amount of concern with me with Campbell that it's K'Lavon Chasen that keeps beating him just because he's a speed rusher. And to that, based on watching Campbell in college, that was what I was worried about. I'm not worried about power rushers with him. He plays he's very strong. He's got great anchor. He's got good core strength. The speed rushers and their ability to get outside of him or threaten outside to get back inside of him, that's where I was concerned. Chasen beat him, twice for sacks, I think is what
I believe
reported.
So, yeah.
So that is a little bit concerning, but we're only a couple days in, and I'm not watching this. I can't tell you if that's, because he had a bad day, because he had one bad rep, or because he has, something that will hurt him for the rest of his career and cause him to be a player that won't be good.
Right.
We have no way of knowing.
There's no way to know. Right. Yeah. And I think I think one of the things for me is that losing reps like that is important, because then it shows you, okay, how do I come back from that? And again, as you said, Matt, like there's a chance that he just struggles with it his whole career and can't overcome the issue and can't stop the speed rushes off the edge. We don't know if that's the case or not, but he's going to struggle at times with those things. But now it gives him an opportunity to say, okay, what can I do to combat that when it happens? Right? I got a speed rusher. How do I stop that? Right? And I think that's one of those things for me where it's like, yeah, I want to make mistakes. I want those things to happen. I mean, listen, I talk to my students all the time about making mistakes and how you learn from making mistakes. And the example I always bring up is the Malcolm Butler, right? Where like they ran that play in practice and Butler ran it wrong. And they looked at the film and said, we don't like the way we're covering this, so we're going to cover it a different way. And so they ran it a different way in the Super Bowl, and they won the Super Bowl because of it. It's like, if he doesn't make that mistake in practice, they don't run that play and see that they don't like it run that way, then they lose the game. Like, right? And like, so, and they're never in that position in the first place. So it's like, give yourself an opportunity to get better, right? To see something happen. It doesn't work that way. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it a different way. And I think that's the situation we're at. Now the question becomes, A, can he learn from it? Which I think everything I've heard, that he works extremely hard and he's a good, and he like is trying to be a perfectionist. And number two, does he have the ability to get better through that? Right? We don't know that, right? We don't know the answer to that question. And so I think he does, but there's no way to know, right? No. And the only way we're going to find that out is by watching him what happens. And by the way, we may not have the answer to that by the end of this season. So, it's like, let's all pump the brakes a little bit. And I know, listen, right now the issue is this. There's football, but there's not really football. Yeah. It's not real football yet. And people are we got to have something to talk about. And so let's talk about this.
Well, what'll happen is we're going to get so excited about the preseason game, and then Will Campbell's going to play one series, and
right,
they're going to be on the field for like 5 plays. 3 of them are going to be runs, and then of the 2 passes, one's going to be like play action or something. So we're going to get one true pass set to evaluate, and we're all going to lose our minds. Right, good, bad, otherwise. I can't wait for that. With the line, I think my biggest concern right now is still it's going to end up being tackle depth. Now that Caden Wallace is at guard,
right?
If Caden Wallace ends up winning that left guard spot, all right, Will Campbell, rookie at left tackle, Morgan Moses, an older guy at right tackle, and right now it was because Vidarian Lowe's still not active. He's the one guy who hasn't come in yet. And now I'm getting a little bit worried now that we're 2 weeks into practice and he's not out there. But Montre Jacobs is your worst offensive lineman last year, and you're an injury to an offensive lineman in his mid-30s away from him having to be a full-time starter again right now, which is not an ideal place to be. And at left tackle, it's with Vidarian Lowe out, it's going to be Marcus Bryant, who might be serviceable, but he's a day 3 rookie, so you don't want to be in that spot. We'll see how this plays out, but definitely concerned about the backup spots at tackle. I think there's only a certain amount you're able to do there too. Everyone's looking at. Most teams don't have 2 good tackles, let alone
right,
quality depth. This is something around the league, but I do wonder if we see a trade of some kind for tackle depth coming at some point.
100%. I think that this is a situation where Polk and Baker come into play, right? Where you may have the depth at receiver that you don't have at corner. You might have the depth at safety, at corner, at tackle, that you don't have at tackle, right? And you may feel like we can move a safety and get back, a tackle. Maybe Mike Epps is the last safety on your depth chart, and you just say, we like Mike Epps, but like, where's he going to play? He can't get on the field, right? And, so maybe that's a guy that they're willing to part with. Maybe Jalen Hawkins is that guy where you feel like, I don't know, like if he's really a guy. So, I think those are the questions, right? And you can always kind of add to that. Oh yeah, it is Marcus Epps. Sorry, Mike Epps is the is the actor.
Who are you talking about?
Sorry about that. Mike Epps from Friday fame. Sorry about that. I got my wires crossed there. But nevertheless, it'd be great if we were on Twitter right now. You could throw up like a Marcus Epps. There's a great Mike Epps like where he's just confused. Like, there's a great GIF of him with like Mike Epps confused face. Where you're like, what the hell is this? So
I I have no clue who Mike Epps is.
Oh, yes, you do. Yes, you do. You're going to Google and be like, oh, okay, I know who that is.
I'm looking at his Wikipedia page right now. I've never seen this man in my life.
Oh, my God. I'm disgusted with you, man. You've never seen Friday?
No.
Oh, you're too young for that. That's right.
He was in The Hangover. I've seen The Hangover. I don't remember.
Yeah, well, see, there you go. He's been in so much stuff.
This is a long list of movies that he's been in, and
Yes.
a lot of these I don't even know.
Oh yeah, he's the best. Anyways, my point here, right, is that you can trade a guy and get a depth piece back, a guy that isn't going to make a roster somewhere else, but is good enough to make your roster. I will say Demontre Jacobs has looked terrible. He's looked just as bad as I remember him. It's been rough. So Demontre has been bad. Not a great sign. Marcus Bryant has looked okay. He's looked okay. He doesn't look great, but he looks like he's a good enough backup, which is fine. Which for me is like, all right, for a 7th round rookie, I'm okay with that, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that I want him to be my top left tackle backup, but if that's the case, that's the case. I
feel better about Lowe or Bryant over Jacobs.
100%.
I feel much better. This is probably crazy, but I'll throw the hypothetical out there in case. I wonder if there's a world here if Morgan Moses were to go down and their right tackle situation is still this bad, that you just move Will Campbell over to right tackle and put in one of the other guys at left tackle, just because Marcus Bryant was a left tackle in college. I don't think he did play right tackle at one point, I'm pretty sure. But then Mizzou leaves him at left tackle with Armand Membu on the right side.
Right.
But Arian Lowe is sometimes a serviceable backup level left tackle, and Demontre Jacobs level bad on the right side. He can't play over.
He's
I
off
don't know
on the right
what
side.
it is. So you end up having more depth right now on the left side. You don't like the players. You don't love any of these guys. You don't really want any of them on the field that are not Morgan Moses or Will Campbell. I feel like you have to make a move, right?
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't be ideal. And Nelson says that Jack Conley can be right tackle. He actually has been working with the threes at right tackle. He hasn't been awful, but I worry about, a rookie undrafted free agent being your top backup to, a 34 or 36-year-old. That worries me.
And if he earns it, he earns it. But
yeah,
that's a lot. He's an undrafted free agent for a reason.
He's just big and burly, which is fine sometimes for a right tackle. He just doesn't move very well. Which is why a lot of people thought he would move inside the guard, because there's a little bit less of the speed rushes off the edge. But the Patriots have been playing him at right tackle, and he's looked okay at times. But I just don't know. I will say I think he's looked better than Demontre Jacobs, but I think Jacobs has been fine for the most part. It's just when he gets beat, it's real bad. So look, I think that this is something that's something that Matt Light did in 2001. He played on the right side. Nate Solder, when he was drafted, I believe Light was at left tackle in 2011, and Solder ended up playing over on the right. And so, this is one of those things where it's happened before. Would I love it? Absolutely not. But if you absolutely had to do it, I think maybe you could. If you looked at it and said, all right, it's Jack Conley at right tackle and Will Campbell at left tackle, or Will Campbell at right tackle and Vidarian Lowe at left tackle, and you feel better about Lowe at left, I guess maybe, but
I don't like it. I don't want to do it. I would left tackle is the more important spot too. So if Campbell's playing well, you just want to leave him there.
Right.
I'm just taking. Do you know who is currently unsigned, who is technically listed as a right tackle right now?
Is it Wills? Is Jedrick Wills?
Well, the first name that I saw here was Isaiah Wynn.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
God help me if Isaiah Wynn comes back as your starting right tackle one. Yeah. That would be a nightmare.
Any amount of time. And I think he's really only played guard lately.
Yeah.
Justin Herron, who didn't even play. He didn't play a snap last year. He's a free agent right now. He's been in the building before, which I think he was a starter at one point. That was 2020 with McDaniels. So there's some history there.
Yep.
Which that could be an okay-ish break glass in case of emergency option. The other names, Nicholas Petit-Frere, who was in Tennessee with Vrabel, but he was awful. He's really bad.
Yeah.
Raven Clark, Jermaine Ifedi, Chris Hubbard, Jack Driscoll, Quinn Bailey, Dante Smith. Filtering by just right tackle and over the cap, these are the guys who were unsigned.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Really not ideal. And that's the concern, I think. But I guess we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think you're going to see some moves. If you look at the Patriots depth chart and you look at how many receivers are on the depth chart, guys that you think, I don't know if they can play necessarily, but guys that you think have the ability to play. I think there are tons of wide receivers. I think there are tons of safeties. And I think corner is a spot too that you feel like kind of the bottom layer of those guys are good enough that you could move somewhere to get a depth tackle. You know what I mean? Like, you're not trading any of those guys for a starter, but DJ James elevated himself, right? Yeah. Like, I don't see a world at this point, and again, there's a long way to go before, cut downs, but I don't see a world at this point where DJ James doesn't make the team. And so, right now, if the cut down day were today, DJ James would be on the team. And so you start looking at the bottom half of that corner room, and you look at, guys like Isaiah Bolden and even Alex Austin, and I think Alex Austin's high enough too. But either way, you look at some of those guys that are down that depth chart, and you think, well, I mean, Isaiah Bolden's an interesting prospect, right? He's a return guy. He's a big-bodied corner. Mm-hmm. Maybe someone's willing to give him a shot for one of their tackles they're going to cut. Like, who knows? And so that's what I look at and think, all right, you can get a guy maybe that's better than the slop that's on the free agent wire right now. But, who knows?
Yeah. We're going through right now just looking at depth charts and like backup right tackle, see if there was anything interesting. And the first two names that jump off the page, who's the backup right tackle for the Jets right now?
Oh, it's a Patriots guy, isn't it? Isn't it a Patriots guy?
Chuks Okorafor.
Oh,
and he's back? You know who the backup right tackle is for the Steelers? Calvin Anderson. And I'm like, oh man, this is the tier of guys we're looking at. The Chargers have two guys who are their backup tackles who have like played before. Jamari Salyer and Trey Pipkins are listed here, and they're not good. But people have liked them before. There's just not a lot of. Like, another potential name could be, if we go to Washington here, they signed Andrew Wiley from the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they could. When did they sign him? Did they just sign him? No, they signed him in 2023.
Right.
He's right now listed as the starter, but they have Josh Connerly. So if Connerly wins that job, maybe you can go make a move for him. Go for Dan Skipper out of the Lions. I don't think they're going to move him. They like him a lot.
No.
You'd have to give up some substantial for him, and that's not worth it.
Yeah.
Josh Nyman, who I've always had a soft spot for, but that has not panned out so far. There's just not a lot of tackles that are good in this league. And I will say, Jedrick Wills was mentioned. He's a free agent. I just learned he's taken this year off. He's recovering from an injury, so he's not signing anywhere.
Okay.
He's not playing.
So there you go. By the way, did you say the Chiefs earlier?
Andrew Wiley had been signed from the Chiefs.
From the Chiefs. Yeah. Got it. To the Commanders, right. The Chiefs have Wanya Morris back there, but I liked Wanya Morris coming out of college. He's done absolutely nothing. Like, absolutely nothing.
But so I'd be surprised. But is that absolutely nothing better than DeMontre Jacobs?
I mean, maybe it is.
Nothing.
Maybe it is.
I am curious how PFF grades him. Look, Wanya Morris, PFF grades of 53 and 55.6 the last 2 years. Let me just compare that with DeMontre Jacobs right now.
It's probably worse.
Jacobs has a grade of 38.2.
Yeah, not ideal.
Wanya Morris actually is a good shout. that, and he's young still.
Yeah.
He's not even 25 yet. So I think that would actually be your best option. You might have to give up something real for it. That might be like a 4th round pick to go get him type of thing. But if Morgan Moses, especially if he has not been in camp for the player they're hoping, and you want a little insurance.
Right. Yeah. Well, not just that, but if you're feeling like Vidarian Lowe isn't coming back or is going to take a while to come back, right? That could be a situation where you say, you know what, we got to go do this. And by the way, the Chiefs receiving core, I mean, you're talking about they're talking about what's his face? They're talking about Tyquan Thornton having an impact. Like, what are we talking about, guys? Like, Tyquan Thornton stinks, dude. And so, you know, that's an issue for me where I look at it and say, okay, well, maybe they'd be willing to take on a guy like Kendrick Bourne or a guy like Jalen Polk even, or Javon Baker. You know what I mean? Like there's a situation where maybe they're willing to do something like that, you know? But nevertheless, you know, I keep staring at the safety depth chart because the safety depth chart for me is where, I mean, look at the guys they have. You're talking about, so it's Duggar, Peppers, Woodson, Hawkins, Schooler, Epps, and Del Pettis. I mean, there's 7 guys. And Del Pettis, you know, I don't know if people like Del Pettis or not, but I think he's fine. And so you're looking at it saying, like, there's at least 5 guys, if not 6, that, you know, or I'm sorry, I think there's 6 guys that can play, and maybe even 7. And so, like, that's a lot of safeties to keep, you know? So if you move one of those guys, who knows?
The other name I would look at here is the other Chiefs guy. It's Jawan Taylor, who has also been bad, but is a real NFL player.
Yeah.
And it's also, you know, we're talking about players they could trade. Patriots have a lot of draft picks. They have 2 4ths, 2 6ths, 2 7ths.
Right.
You know, I'm sure you could make something work there if you wanted to, and you just want to get a little insurance.
Yeah. Yeah. And if the Chiefs are moving on from Jawan Taylor and saying, you know, we're going to put someone else in that spot, then, you know, you could take advantage of that. And I don't know if
and they say, well, Jawan Taylor's got the contract is the issue.
Right.
You would have to pay him $20 million this year.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
You want to pay a backup right tackle $20 million?
Probably not.
No.
Probably.
Which means if you're trading for him, you know, you're hoping
you're
giving up. You're giving up a 7th.
Right.
Like if you're taking on I don't even hate taking on the contract if you're New England. You have the cap space this year, and you know, go for a reclamation project, throw a 7th round pick out there, and you know, it costs you basically nothing if it doesn't work out, and if something works out, you know, you got some depth, you need it.
Right. Yeah, it's a situation where Kansas City's going to cut him, and you're stepping in and saying, you know, we'll take him instead. You know what I mean?
No, they can't cut him.
I was going to say they can't. They must not be able to cut him. They signed him 2 years ago?
2023, yeah. Because if they cut him, there's no this year. There's no cap savings. It's a 27 mil dead cap hit for them. If they trade him, it's only 7 mil dead, and the 20 they're able to pass on to the other team.
So that's not bad.
To be New England in this case, and I'm sure you could also talk with them and try to, you know, get that number lower, maybe get it down to like 15.
Right.
20.
But either way, yeah, you'd have to give him up a little bit more to do that. But so what, you know?
Or at least have the discussion. But yeah, I think that's what I'm most concerned about this team right now.
I would agree. So we'll see. Hey, listen, honestly, right now, if you're most worried about the backup right tackle, and the starting center, that's not too bad. You know, and again, there's question marks, and I know Nikhil was asking us our thoughts on Will Campbell. We went over that already, but you know, there's a long way to go. But I feel pretty good about Will Campbell left tackle. I feel pretty good about Jared Wilson at left guard. I feel good about Onwenu at right guard. And so, yeah, we got a few questions at center and right tackle, but we're in a hell of a lot better position than we were last year. So, you know, at the very least, you're building on some stuff. You know, the receiving core is significantly better than it was last year. And so you feel like, all right, like May's kind of taking that step. He's become the guy, which he wasn't last year at the beginning of the year. So, like, things are moving in a positive direction.
I feel like, again, this camp feels wholly uneventful in kind of a positive way. The story for so long has just been how much of a disaster the team has been in practice. It just feels like a normal team. And it's not like, I remember back in the Brady era where it felt like it was crazy highlights happening all the time in practice, especially when you have that talent on offense and defense, crazy things happening and so many good players. And it's just not that. There haven't been, it seems like Kyle Williams has made a couple big plays.
Yep.
It seems like there's been like one big passing play every day. But I mean, there's nothing crazy going on right now, which is nice. It's normal. It just feels like regular practice. Neither side has a crazy leg up. It's just like both competent. Mike Reese was noting today that Drake May still hasn't thrown a pick
which is interesting.
Live reps yet. That can't be a bad thing right now.
Right. And he said, and other people have said, and I will echo that, like, he's had some balls that were probably turnover-worthy plays, but he hasn't had a ton of them. And I think that's growing. And of course, they had one day where they were working on all screen stuff and all quick passes, and so like those probably aren't going to get intercepted much. But still, he's pushed the ball downfield a little bit. He's thrown the ball to the middle of the field multiple times, a good amount of times, and they're playing live reps at times. And so, it's a good sign that him and the receivers are, for the most part, on the right page, right? It's not perfect, but for the most part, they're on the right page. And that's a good thing, And of course, it doesn't hurt that the top two corners on your team are out right now. But nevertheless, that's the way it goes. So, so we'll see. And I think that, I think right now the Patriots are fun because their young guys are making improvements. You're seeing Jalen Polk look better than he did last year. You're seeing Javon Baker look better than he did last year. Is it perfect? No, but they're looking better. They're improving, and you're like, okay, these guys are getting better. You're seeing young guys like Will Campbell and Jared Wilson play well, and you feel like, okay, these kids have played pretty well. We feel like it's not a complete disaster right now, And so that's kind of where we're at. Even like Craig Woodson was a guy that really popped in OTAs, and he's been fine. I haven't really noticed him a ton, but he looks like a competent safety. Like, it's like, okay, like he looks like he's can, kind of play. Who knows?
Well, like those guys, we got joint practices next week, so that'll be big for that. I want to shout out one other player that Mike Reese gave a shout out to that I thought was notable, and that's Truman Jones off the edge on defense. Mm-hmm. He was I think he won one of their offseason awards for work in the building.
Yeah,
and he was here last year, and with the depth at edge. I love Anthony Jennings, but he is an expendable piece if they think they have someone young that they like. And, I think, DJ James is the first name that has popped as all right, we didn't think this guy was going to make the roster, and now we think he's got a real chance at it. And Truman Jones, apparently he's looked good enough that he might be entering that conversation.
Yeah, and, it's funny you say that because I believe it was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. I tweeted about Truman Jones yesterday because that exact same thing where I felt like maybe Mike Reese is reading my tweets, but I felt like he had a good practice. Won a few one-on-ones. Keon went out. He became, he kind of jumped into that, or he was in the mix on that, on that first team defense at edge. So, that's another guy where it's like, hey, all right. If we have some depth here at the edge spot, listen, you can never have enough edge rushers. So,
and Chasen looks like a real find right now.
He does.
That looks like a real smart signing. And again, it's a world where our line just stinks still, and he's not that good. But
and it's early, and who knows? And maybe
I'm very excited to see him next week against Washington.
He also had a good year last year, or at least the second half of the year. So there's a chance that he kind of figured something out. You know what I mean?
4 sacks in his last 6 games, I believe it was. So ended things hot and finished with 5 sacks. And even if he ends up being just a 5-sack guy for you this year, that's valuable. That's really good. So as a depth edge rusher, so love it.
Yep, agreed. So, and also Nelson was mentioning Elijah Ponder has looked pretty good, which I think is an interesting name to talk about because, I haven't noticed him a ton, to be honest with you, 91. But, but if he's a guy that can maybe play a little bit, that would help, and I don't know if he can, and he said he's probably going to be a practice squad guy too, but even if you feel like, all right, this guy's a practice squad guy, but, practice squad guys can be important players. You know what I mean? So,
yep.
So we'll see.
Yep.
But anyways, all right.
I feel like I have to clarify something real quick, by the way, because people are not taking this tweet that I tweeted how I intended for it to be taken. Mark Daniels had tweeted something earlier that appeared on the surface to imply that Lan Larison was repping as New England's running back too and had moved up the depth chart today. No Antonio Gibson today. He says, all right, and now Lan Larison's working with the starters behind Ramondre Stevenson. Since Stevenson has been RB1, I took that to mean that Lan Larison was now getting reps as the running back too. Right. Which was a shock to me because by all reports, Travion Henderson has looked great in camp.
Yeah.
So I texted you and you cleared up that.
Yeah.
Travion Henderson's running back too. Lan Larison was just getting more opportunities today.
Right. Yeah. With Gibson out, Larison was getting a little bit more opportunities, and I think that's a good thing. That's a good thing for Lan Larison. He's looked okay. Yeah. He's not great, but he's looked okay. And so, maybe he has a shot to make the team. Maybe there's an outside chance that Gibson's a guy that gets traded for, for a depth piece or something like that. And that's, there's a chance, there's a world where that happens. But yeah, no, Travion Henderson, it was weird. I read that tweet from Daniels and I was like, really? Now, I wasn't at practice today. It was also a walkthrough, so who knows? Yeah. But it was like worded strange because it did sound like, so my buddy was there because he had texted me. He was like, hey, you here? And I said, no, I went yesterday instead of today. I was taking a day off. I didn't know if it was going to be yesterday or today. But anyways, he was like, yeah, no, Henderson's the second guy. He's like, I don't know what he's talking about. I was like, okay. So there you go. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was thrilled for Trey. I saw that tweet and one's about Luther Burden, killing it for the Bears today, back to back. I was just like, what is going on right now? has our second round pick less than 2 weeks into camp been demoted below an undrafted free agent while Luther Burden's killing it? I had a moment where I was seeing red.
That'd be rough.
Things came back.
Yep, that'd be rough. So, whew. So, but it's a good idea. I like this one. Gibson, Jennings, and a third for Trey Hendrickson.
I don't know if Cincinnati would do that, but I'm down.
Cincinnati definitely wouldn't do that. But, I mean, maybe they would. Who knows? If Hendrickson's not going to play for them and they won't sign him, what the hell?
Hendrickson came back to camp, right?
He did. He did come back to camp, but only because he's getting fined every day he's not there. You know what I mean? But we'll see. Anyways, all right. We were going 90 minutes here. Let's get the hell out of here. Those of you that...
I was just checking the schedule. We're not back until next Wednesday because of the joint practice.
Yeah,
we just have it scheduled, so we'll do our show and we'll do reactions to the joint practice and the preview of the preseason game next Wednesday.
Yes, and then I'm at the preseason game on Thursday, so I think we'll probably just do. Oh, right, that's right. I'm at the preseason game on Friday, so I think we're just going to do Saturday at some point.
Well, I won't be on that show, but that'll be
okay. Never mind. Well, we could do Friday night, late night Friday night if you want.
No, I am away that weekend.
Okay.
I planned this weekend away because with my friends instead of.
That's right. I remember you telling me this.
The Patriots have not played like a week one preseason game on anything but a Thursday in like 2 decades, and I assumed for this Friday I would be fine. And of course, they have a game on that Friday, so I'll be away. I'll be watching, but I will not be with a microphone.
All right, so I'll figure it out. We'll figure something out probably on Saturday. I'll figure something out with someone else. So
Pat, we are 2 podcast episodes away from a post-game show.
Very excited.
Made it.
Very excited. It's good stuff. So, all right. Well, thanks for tuning in, people. Appreciate you being here, even though we talked about God knows what for 90 minutes. So thank you, everyone. We appreciate that. Be good to each other and go Pats.